Hi there. In this lecture we see Rashid Nezhmetdinov against Mikhail Tal, 1961 USSR Championship. A journalist once asked Mikhail Tal about the happiest day of his life, and Mikhail Tal actually gave credit to Nezhmetdinov, saying his happiest day was actually losing to Nezhmetdinov in this particular game we're about to see, 1961. So it's a very, very special encounter game. The two are very good friends. And it's great that Mikhail Tal kind of gave part of his, famous legacy to let people investigate Nezhmetdinov more, saying, it creates curiosity about Nezhmetdinov. Why was this the happiest day of his life, losing to Nezhmetdinov? This is an absolutely amazing game. So Nezhmetdinov with the white pieces, Tal plays the Sicilian defense, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4. Knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, e6. This looks fairly standard Sicilian Scheveningen so far. So without a6, this is what used to be played quite a bit. a6 is the Najdorf. So the Scheveningen is something also Garry Kasparov was playing and then switched to the Najdorf. We have bishop e2, a6 here. White castles, queen c7, f4, knight bd7. Now a very interesting move, g4. Technically it's an inaccuracy. Bishop f3 is the more accurate way. Play with a4 with a small edge. But we see g4. It is an interesting move. b5. If h6, let's take a4 as an example. Bishop e3. Black could try g5 to try and win the e5 square for a knight. And actually white can play f5 to ignore that. This position should be about even. Okay, so anyway, b5 is played though. We have a3. If g5 here, a3 looks like, bit of patience here against b4. Yeah, the problem is if g5, b4. So if g takes, b takes, this is actually going to be favouring black. That helps develop piece anyway, and this g file is a bit dangerous. It's helping black. So a3 preventing b4, bishop b7, bishop f3, knight c5. So Tal's play is very consistent around the e4 square, queen e2, but now e5. This is a bit of a structural concession. May not be the best move here. If h6 though, it seems white is getting a small edge here with e5. If d takes, f takes, let's take in turn knight h7 first. Knight takes b5, knight d takes b5 is a concern for black. This position, where bishop takes b7, queen takes d7, rook takes f7, king g2. Okay, it's an interesting position. Maybe it's about equal. It's a little bit of a concern. If knight h7 is not played though, if knight fd7, there's actually an issue with black's position here, a downside, a kind of more perhaps pedantic downside than you might imagine. Can you see what it is for 10 points? What could white play here? And this actually does give white an advantage. It's, even though white seems to have weakened the king side with these moves, playing on this side of the board now, b4. There's no reverse gear for the knight, so we can take on a4. We've got better pawn structure. We've got a strong pawn potential here. This position, white's got a definite advantage overall. Okay, so yeah, that is interesting. So anyway, e5 is played, so that actually prevents white playing e5, but it is a concession to allow the knight to go to f5. We have g6. Now f takes e5 is played. D takes, which opens up the bishop on f8. Knight h6, which is interesting. An alternative is to put the knight onto e3, but this prevents castling. Knight e6, bishop g2. Now bishop g7 is a mistake, it seems. Knight f4 has an amazing defensive resource behind it. So it would, if it takes out the dark square bishop, you might think e5 here is really strong. And a lot of players would rule this out because knight d7, e6, white's blasting black to smithereens with the king in the center, and the knight's hitting f7. If f takes, this position is all over. Black's going to be losing lots of material. But the thing is, actually, black has a computer defensive resource. Can you see what it is? For 10 points. What does black play here? There's actually knight d5, believe it or not, which blunts white's attack. This position, if we take, there's queen c5 check, and it's an even position. So yes, that is funny that actually knight f4 is playable. Okay, so bishop g7 though is played. And now a great move here. This is brilliant stuff. This really is brilliant stuff. For 10 points, what do you think Nezhmetdinov plays here? Okay, it's rook takes f6. Nice exchange sec. g5 is also possible. Is it going to just get too much, or is it just a small edge? Here, from the evidence, it's just a small edge. It is playable, but it's a small edge. This exchange set is stronger, in fact. So bishop takes knight d5. We have queen d8. If bishop takes d5, e takes, black has to be on the lookout in these situations for d6. Let's say knight d4, queen f2 is hitting f6, and remember there's still d6. So let's say bishop g7, we play d6, and we don't mind just taking out a8. Great stuff. We're just winning here. But what if you might think, okay, hold on. What about in this position, queen d6? That holds the bishop, prevents d6. Yes, in this case, bishop e3. And the thing is, that bishop's pinned at f7. And look at the knight on f7. So say black castles, we just play rook f1. And then we're going to take on f7. And this is actually better for white significantly. So, okay. I mean, if we evaluate the final position here, in this variation, we've got strong pressure. We can kick this knight even. Yeah, we've got a lot of dynamic potential. We can crash down the f-file. We've got a lot of great ideas. So, queen d8 is played. Queen f2 now, putting pressure on f6 again, which is pinned to the f7 pawn. The bishop moves, queen takes f7 is mate. So we see knight f4. Bishop takes f4, e takes. And now actually this next move, through computerized, is actually technically a mistake. But it's only if you're playing a computer it's a mistake. Queen takes f4 here, for sure, gives white an edge. This position is an edge for white. Not such a big deal because we've already kind of sacked the exchange. So it's not such a big deal. So, okay. So anyway, Nezhmetdinov plays e5. And there's a counter mistake played here. Black did have a resource which is fascinating. Mikhail Tal played bishop takes e5, which, maybe intuitively you might think it's dangerous for the king in the center to open up the center. Bishop h4, though, queen d4 looks pretty scary because of e6, and the defense is rook f8 in advance of e6. And let's say rook d1, rook c8. It turns out here, g5, it turns out black can reach equality with best play. So holding up f7, holding up things. Okay, so bishop h4 was a resource. On bishop e7, knight f6 check. Bishop takes b7. White's got a big advantage here. Okay, so anyway, there's a counter mistake. Bishop takes e5. So bishop h4 was a key move, it seems. But bishop takes e5. We have rook e1. And now f6 makes things much worse than they needed to be. Bishop takes d5. I mean, it's already pretty bad. Rook takes e5 check. Here, bishop c6 check. This position, if we look at it, rook takes e6 is a lot of fun because of this powerful central queen d4 move. let's say rook g8, then this is absolutely winning. And let's say queen f3, we are actually winning this. We get our queen to a relevant position again, and we're material up. But this is actually making things significantly worse, f6. Now the reason is absolutely brilliant. In terms of brilliant chess tactics, this is absolutely brilliant stuff. This next two moves are absolutely amazing, in my view. So black has that asset of a dark square bishop without a counterpart. Bear that in mind. White plays, can you guess? Okay, knight takes f6 check, creating that absolute pin. So what is the point? Is the point bishop takes b7, or is the point something else? Now, the point is something else. It's not bishop takes b7. This is a clue to you. Bishop takes b7 just falls flat because of king f8 with now the threat of bishop d4. Black has a bishop without a counterpart, threatening bishop d4. So say we take the rook, bishop d4, big advantage to black. Say we played queen c5 check, bishop d6, and here we haven't achieved that much. It's just going to be an even position like this, for example. White can win the rook, but it's just an even position. So instead, this is absolute magic. Get rid of black's asset is a kind of preventative measure against any backfires for the attack. And how do we do that? It's queen d4. Wanting this bishop instead of that bishop. We have king f8. Rook takes e5 now. And there's a big threat of rook f5 pinning the queen. We have queen d8. If rook d8, what would you play for 10 points? Yeah, we could play rook e8 check, hitting the queen. And you know what? The king can't go to f7. If the king goes to g7, we have rook e7 check with that pin, taking out the queen with advantage. Otherwise, we're just going to take the queen. So rook takes, we just, actually there will be checkmate. So, rook d8 is out of the question to counter, to hit the queen, try and use that tempo gainer. Queen d8 is played. Also, actually, if bishop takes g2, let's look at rook f5. That's winning the queen because it's pinning the queen. And then instead of taking the queen immediately, we can take on h8, even better. Take on g7. Play queen g7 check to safeguard our queen, then take the queen. So yes, it's limited. Black's busted really. Queen d8 is played. And there are many different wins in this position. By taking out that dark square bishop, look at all the weakened dark squares in black's camp. Black's got a lot of air around the king. Incredible amount of air around the king. So black hasn't got that dangerous asset. Black is kind of weakened on the dark squares. The king's not particularly safe. There are multiple ways now to win. The clever bit's been done. Actually, there are different winning methods here. We have rook f5 check. So other moves that win, queen c5 check. Look at the dark squares, g5, and because of the dark square issues and the knight covering escape squares and the pawn, this is incredible. Actually, this is incredible as an alternative way of winning. Check, check. It's easily like crashing through. If rook e8, we just take, check. Queen f6 check. Look at how weak the dark squares are. Queen b4 check is also possible. Look how weak the dark squares are here. Queen takes f4, queen f6, mating. So yes, this is one of many winning moves now, rook f5 check. G takes. If king e7, queen e5 check, rook f7 check, bishop takes b7 is checkmate. So g takes is played. Queen takes h8 check. King e7, Queen g7 check. Now here, if King e8, Queen f7 is checkmate. If King d6, Knight f7, and then we take the Queen. So King e6 is tried, but now guess what ends the game? 10 points. It's a little bit annoying that Queen f7, King d6, we're not forking King Queen. So actually, we don't want to use the f7 square up too quickly. We've got the possibility of using the f7 with Queen and Knight. We play actually G takes f5 check. So that leaves our f7 options open, and Black resigned, Mikhail Tal resigned. If King d6, then we use the Knight coming to f7 to win the Queen. And it's an easy win from here. This is just an easy win, for example. Checkmate. So yes. So King d6, where else can the king go? Knight f7 check, winning, basically. A wonderful game. And yes, there are other amazing dynamic tactical players. Mikhail Tal is an absolute legend, and he gave a bit of his legend to say that the happiest day of his life was losing, to his friend Nezhmetdinov. It shines a light on Nezhmetdinov, and that's one of the reasons. Also, why this course I wanted to further shine that light, celebrate this absolutely brilliant tactical player, Nezhmetdinov. Fantastic games. Maybe in parts he's a bit technically unsound, but that's the impact of computers finding out the real mistakes, the real resources and positions, and then only then when you see these amazing defensive resources, you can say, well, something was maybe slightly inaccurate. But yeah, overall though, in particular, the brilliant idea of which bishop to basically take, that key moment is stunning concept of knight after f6 to take on f6 with the idea of queen d4. Amazing stuff. I hope you enjoyed this as much as me. It's inspirational stuff. It helps, in my view, sharpen our tactics to see such ferocious, dynamic, aggressive players like Nezhmetdinov. Okay, thanks so much. All comments, questions, likes and subscribes, really appreciated. Thanks so much.